Everybody's wearing fake eyelashes, and everybody's wearing tons of makeup, and everybody's like takes a long time to get ready, and then at night everybody just gets fucked up.
Do they?
Well, not everybody, but it's kind of a battle between like trying to be good and get up on time.
Yeah.
And do everything right, and then on the other hand, like trying to like you're in Vegas and people keep asking you to come out and like be like hang out, go to the club, and so like the battle to stay beautiful is kind of a, it's like an arty topic, I guess.
Isn't there pressure to also like live the lifestyle? People, I mean, kind of a lot of people have to be edgy and they have to go out and get drunk and
it's less abstract than that. It's just like people do want to have fun, and like they people always like they want to hang out, and so their friends they want to hang out with their friends. So it's sort of edgy by default rather than.
Edgy by default. And let's throw automatic live stuff.
Steve. How you doing?
Hi, how's it going?
This is Steve.
Hi, Steve. I'm Rob. Nice to meet you.
He's doing an interview. Steve's a photographer.
Right on.
Freelance. Currently here for Hustler and Ink.
Very cool.
He'll do whatever.
Yeah. I think it's more consider.
What?
I think it's more consider.
What did they want to talk about forever?
Oh, they're the two guys doing his own.
Right, but they were talking for a long time.
Yeah, I always. Okay.
It's bizarre. I like the lighting. We're here with Zak. We're here with Zak Sabbath, and this is a Reviewer magazine at the AEE Expo 2018. This is January 2018. Stormy Daniels is a big issue right now in the press because of her background noise. So we'll try to do it as long as we can here. If we have to walk outside, we will. Yeah, Stormy Daniels. I mean, the porn has gotten so mainstream. Stormy Daniels was like heads or tails. Is she going to affect the 2016 election or not? What's your take on the whole Stormy Daniels issue right now in the press, Zak?
I mean, I don't think it doesn't do much to the president. Like, he could fuck a goat on the White House lawn and no one would care. But I think it does affect how you think about porn, because it basically, I mean, for anybody who like looks at internet traffic knows that most internet traffic is porn, and so for a while it's become obvious that like porn is sort of the thing that's always there and not talked about, that a lot of people are participating in, they're watching, and they're not talking about it. Or at least they're not talking about it as like a normal thing or like a healthy thing that's not pathological. And I think that Trump fucking porn star is one of those things where it's just one more brick in the wall, or out of the wall, I guess, where it's not just the mainstreaming of porn, it's just the mainstreaming of like even people who are supposed to be conservative and Republicans have to eventually admit that they're okay with it, and that they are bringing it into other people's lives, they're bringing it into the news, they're making a thing of it,
I think it's like, because everybody who runs, every man or woman now who runs for the presidency has to get the approval of the religious right. It's more of a commentary on them and American society, because Billy Graham's son was validating what happened, saying it was just years ago and it was alleged. He was totally. I mean, this guy's like an evangelical preacher, and he was excusing the president for the whole thing.
Yeah.
I have no problem with it. You have no problem with it. Everybody in this hotel has no problem with it. Some married guy, married billionaire, fucking a porn star. It's like, good for him, right?
I mean, I do have a problem with it because Stormy should not be fucking Donald Trump.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
I don't think that Donald Trump shouldn't be fucking Stormy. I think that she shouldn't be fucking him. Like, if you fuck a Republican, you should go to jail.
Okay.
Like, you don't let them have any under any circumstance.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I think it's more of an embarrassment.
It's a moral thing.
To her than to anybody else.
Ah.
Like.
So your basis for not shaming her, but your basis for criticizing her is because of.
No, I mean, she got paid. I'm not mocking her hustle. I'm just saying it's more embarrassing for her than him.
Do you think she got paid at the time of the act?
I have no idea, and I can't.
Do you think?
I have no idea.
Really? Okay.
I have no idea, but I do think that like it's more embarrassing for her than him.
There's too much noise there. Can we go? Can we walk outside like in a hall or something? There's way too much noise there. Outside. Oh, I don't know. Can we? Yeah. Oh yeah, cool. Hi.
Yeah.
Doing a video interview for Reviewer Magazine.
Okay. Who are you interviewing?
I'm Zak Sabbath.
Alright, cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Brian, I get your emails all the time. Good to see you. Hi, how you doing? Jill. Yes. Thanks. Okay. All right. Interviewing a porn star on a bed in the Hard Rock. So Zak, yeah. Anyways, like we were saying, if they were going to like slut shame her because she was fucking Donald Trump, but it's like I personally do. I
just think it has nothing to do with being a slut. It's just don't fuck Republicans if you can avoid it, you know. And if it comes out that you did, that's embarrassing.
All right.
You know, but what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, she was like mainstream for a minute there. She started out as a stripper, got into
Desert Stormy.
She what?
Operation Desert Stormy.
Okay.
That was when she was
the pornucopia.
Yeah.
Oh, at the time she was doing in 2006.
About that time, like 2006 or 7, it must have been.
She might not have mentioned that. I interviewed her in the office of a Deja Vu in I think 2008, and she talked about pornucopia at the time, and she was a really good interview and everything. But let's go out in the hallway. Can we?
What?
Can we go out in the hallway?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll follow you out on the hallway.
No problem.
Okay, thanks. Got to see the office of the Nerve Center, the War Room. This is the War Room, folks, of AEE in the Hard Rock Cafe. Brian Gross. Thanks, Brian. Right. Yeah.
Although if we do that, we're not in the light.
Here we go.
Okay.
So, anyways, yeah, this is actually better. This is better. But this is perfect. Actually, the light's perfect here. Thanks. God, there was a lot to talk about. But yeah, I wanted a little bit better level of privacy because if you said something over there in front of everybody in the Media Nerve Center, it might get out somehow. That's my paranoia. It might get out before I can release it on Vimeo or whatever. Yeah, but you were saying some good stuff about the how the kind of like office politics of the industry when it came to big famous James Dean, and you had kind of a running battle with him because you've written about him after the Stoya.
I mean, we only ran into each other a few times, but we never liked each other. We never got along, and I was friendly with a lot of people that had gotten a lot of shit from him over the years. People who had, he had somebody who wishes to remain anonymous he broke her nose during a scene.
Really? You punched her in the face?
No, it's just pushing me into a wall, I think.
Oh wow.
And but I just heard so many stories from people after the fact, and we did not get along, and we got into like a physical altercation one AVN.
Yeah, you told me about that in the elevator. He was editing a video.
He was editing a Burning Angel video, and I hadn't done the scene the way. It was a shitty day on set, and he was just mad. He was like, you could be big, but you're not doing the right shit, and he wanted to tell me a bunch of shit, and I was like, just leave me alone.
Like control freak stuff.
That's the impression that everyone has, that like when he started working at Burning Angel, or we started dating Joanna, he sort of took over, and he would boss other people around, and it was like people who didn't think that they had come over to have to be in a movie directed by Joanna, and then James would sort of take over. And he had, so I had, when all this shit came out, when Stoya finally accused him, I was asked to write an article for a big magazine because most porn people don't want to talk to the mainstream press. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. and I talked to just mostly started with people I know and who had already had stories, and I worked out from there. And everybody said basically the same thing, and then I found out like extra weird stuff. Like everybody's story involved food. Like,
yeah, you said he had a food trigger.
Yeah, like I mean, was that or just like? But you know, he would ask this girl for like a burrito, and she'd get the wrong burrito, and he threw sandwiches across the room, and he wanted a very specific yogurt, and he'd throw a fit if he didn't get it. And girls came over to shoot a scene for Burning Angel, and it was like a stoner themed scene. And he was like, "You can eat anything in the kitchen, but don't eat these Girl Scout cookies." And then he fucking ate the Girl Scout cookie or something. No, one of
She did. She ate the last one.
Yeah.
Don't ever eat the last thing of anything.
Somebody ate the last, ate the Girl Scout cookies, and he just threw an insane fit and was yelling at everyone, but like consistently that, like, and so I wrote that article, and it got a lot of play at the time because even though the mainstream outlet was like, well, it's got too much legal stuff in it for us to handle. And he's not, neither the victims nor him are enough of, the mainstream press don't give that shit that much. About what happens to.
It's newsworthy, but it's not that big.
Yeah, and so I did it. I got a kill fee from them, which was a fine kill fee, and big magazines like that kill half their stories, right before they have an editor.
Legal department.
Legal, but also like. You have sub-editors, and they commission a bunch of stuff, and they have enough money that they then curate out of that, the next editor up. And so they killed that story, but then I just put it up on Medium because I had enough. I mean, there was just so much stuff. And then it got boinged and metafiltered, I think, and all that. Like people were like, oh shit, this is what happened. And nobody's contradicted anything in it. Like nobody's taken back anything. Nobody, like I have.
You haven't heard from him.
I have. It's triple. Of course not. Like we don't talk.
Right.
But yeah. Like,
but he didn't try to refute it. He didn't try to tell you, hey.
That isn't how
you shouldn't have do that.
I mean, no matter whether you did it or not, that's not how you deal with these things.
Huh.
You just say it's all bullshit and stay quiet and
let it go away.
Show up and expect.
Because I noticed when it came out in December of 2015, the two stories that I read about at first did not in any way include James Dean. There was never any attempt, it looked like, at least to me, to include his side of the story. And I thought that was a little odd. But then, I don't know, maybe they do things different in the adult industry.
No, it's just you don't talk to the press, period. Like, I mean, I think if you're an accused person, like, whether he did anything bad or not, it makes sense that you wouldn't talk to the press,
But you know how often there's that part in the story where, we tried to contact blah, 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 so-and-so, or his office, and we haven't heard back from them at press time. It's a wide angle, so you don't have to worry about it. Oh, it's your back. You're like, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
But anyways, it seems like they just, it kind of, and don't get me wrong, it kind of seemed like a hatchet job at the time. Like they were going to get this guy with this article, and he was being called the Bill Cosby of porn. How like at the same time Bill Cosby was like in the news for.
Well, that was the last story. But I mean, for my feeling is that is strange because most of those organs that you would say would be doing a hatchet job were the ones who kind of had raised him up in the first place. So I don't think that a lot of them were not incentivized to write a mean story about him because they were the ones who had written the first few big stories about him. That's pretty counterintuitive. Like Joanna Angel was saying in the story, like after they broke up, and they would be doing a story on James, like some big magazine, like Rolling Stone or something, would call her up and be like, "Hey, can you tell us about James?" And she's like, "I don't want to talk about it. It was horrible." And they would say, "Well, James says nice things about you, and we're working on a story." They just didn't want to hear it. So it doesn't make sense to me to suggest that all these news because basically the story that I wrote about is the media was wrong, like on a big scale. Like they do what they periodically do is they choose one or two porn people, and now it's going to be Stormy's turn to represent the whole industry and what goes on in the industry. And they had chosen James, and what they had chosen James to say was to pin all of their sex-positive stories around James, and to pin their stories about how women do really like to watch porn, these young women, on James. And so instead of like reporting the whole story and the variety of like different ways that women interact with porn, they just wrote a story about James. And so it's embarrassing to then have to reverse that. Like there were not people who were incentivized to write a hatchet job about him. So I think that's not how it seemed to me. You know, like what it seemed to me was that everything I had been hearing for years finally came out.
Makes sense.
I mean, the people I quoted in the article,
yeah,
none of them they'll say anything different than what they said in there. Everything's triple sourced.
Yeah, no,
Sourced.
It all seemed valid, and especially the way the origin of it, with Stoya making that one line or two tweet comment on Twitter. I mean, it just seemed like a valid thing that a girl would say who had been screwed over by a really popular guy. It could be anybody. It could be the high school quarterback. Back in high school, just some really popular dude, and she just doesn't like. She was having a hard time seeing people treat him with popularity when she knew a different side of him. And then she went public with him and kind of snowballed into a huge story, just like that, because of a lot of other people that backed it up.
Because a lot of people backed it up, and also because she's as popular as him.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. Let's talk about her a little bit. You've worked with her before, and she's like a really artistic, really high intellect kind of broad, huh? I mean, she's kind of special. She's like she's pretty unique, when it comes to like.
I mean, you're asking me to say nice things about my friend, which I can do all the
yeah.
time. I mean, we're friends.
Well, I'm kind of a fan too. I've been reading her stories.
We work together. Like she's been a subject in paintings and drawings I've done. Like,
oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I did 42 Stoyas drawing.
Did you really?
Yeah, like it's one drawing. But yeah, I mean.
Oh wow.
She has reservations about the mainstream industry and the attention that she got about that, and I don't want to make that worse or in any way or kind of like,
She's kind of doing her own thing now.
Yeah, she wants to do her own thing, and I think I don't want to speak too much for her, but I feel like I support what she's doing, and I feel like she's a person who. She's smart and at this point successful enough that she can say what's really on her mind. She doesn't have to say certain things in order for the industry to accept her. She's, there are people who are smart, but they're in a position where if they're critical, it could get them in trouble. And she's past that, and so she's basically when she says something, it's trustworthy, and she's branching out and doing other things. She was just in a play,
acting in New York.
She's doing stuff. So. I mean, I feel like I guess I would say I don't want to be a proxy interview for her, but I do think she's kind of like along with like someone like Nina Hartley. Like these are like best case scenarios. Like these are like if you were making a documentary about like the range of experiences in porn. Like these are people who kept their shit together, and they were smart people. Like. I just me and Ella Darling were in the press room and somebody was trying to get their press credentials and talking about the tech sector, and I was like, he was like, I want to talk to someone about VR porn. I was like, you want to talk about VR? Go talk to Ella. And Ella just gave this guy crypto and blockchains, and he was just asking these super technical questions, and she knew it all. And it's like there are a few people in porn who are just like they're everything that you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like they're and Stoya is like one of those people where you're like just she's an impressive person all around.
Absolutely. You touched on two things just now because when I met you, it was in the line to get our press credentials the other night here, and you surprised me by telling me you were the guy that was in that one video of the Bob Guccione building that's abandoned in Croatia with Stoya. So I'd like to hear about that, but I'd also like to hear about you can do either one first about your career as a painter or your work as a painter, because you're not just a full-time porn dude.
By any means. I've done relatively few movies compared to most people.
How old were you when you sold your first painting?
When I sold one when I was in college. So
what was it of?
It was a girl.
Okay, nude.
It was like a big it was to the woman who worked across the street in the financial desk at the college. But I was in college. I was like 19, 20.
Which college?
Cooper Union at the time.
Okay.
But yeah, so Stoya calls me up and she's like, well, how do you feel about going to Croatia? And I'm like, I feel good. She's like, how do you feel about trespassing? And I'm like, I love trespassing. So Bob Guccione had built in the 70s, late 70s, this place called the Holodovo Hotel. And if you Google it, it's this gorgeous modernist building, crazy architecture. It's a big casino hotel. It was Yugoslavia at the time. And his idea was he was going to sort of end communism. He was going to bring down the Berlin Wall somehow by having this great, fabulous casino hotel. And all the communist leaders would come. And all the girls working there would be penthouse pets. And they would see that capitalism is wonderful and the West and East can work together. And it kind of worked in that Tito and Saddam Hussein and other communist leaders did actually come to the Holodovo and hang out for a few years. But the labor laws were pretty intense. And so, you know, it was hard for him to make a lot of money out of there because of the taxes. And another rule apparently was that every single business decision had to be ratified by the entire staff. So the penthouse pets kept having to fly back to Yugoslavia to vote on like whether they should change the janitor or whatever. And so eventually someone else bought it, and then during the breakup of Yugoslavia, it got turned into a refugee camp basically. So people would flee, you know, the fighting, and they would go into this hotel, and it was like this giant complex, and they would just rip the copper out of the walls, rip the plumbing out, and they were just like trying to live basically it's in the forest, so they're like, you know.
So it went from like being a glamorous spot to a total dystopian example of the decline of civilization.
Exactly, and then, you know, of course that's a perfect, you know, Tumblr bait. You know, it became this beautiful piece of ruin porn, and you just see these like tumble down buildings.
So it was tumble down porn.
Yeah, I mean it was a ruin. You know, it was a sort of picturesque ruin. And
what was the name of it again?
The Holodovo Hotel.
Holodovo.
Haludovo.
And it's in Belgrade.
No, it's outside of Belgrade in the sort of resort town called Krk, K-R-K. And so we got in there, but of course it's not on the map because it's not an active business. You know, it's a ruin. And so, and Stoya was really sick that day, and we only had one day to shoot. So I put her up in the hotel, and I'm like, okay, I'll go find this place. You stay here, get well. Hopefully we'll be able to shoot in the morning. So I go out and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm looking, and I find a building that like kind of looks like the Tumblr pictures I've seen, and I'm looking for ways in. Like I'm like, okay, so this part's boarded up. If I get this screwdriver, I can get in here, and we might be able to climb up this tree and get on the roof and maybe shoot a scene on the roof. And I was like, is this really the place? Because it looks smaller than the pictures. I assume that they had just knocked down the stuff around it after, you know, people found out about it on the internet, you know. And so I was looking through the windows, and it said, like, there was a big 70s office in there, and like an old typewritten binder, and it said Holodovo Hotel, like pressed up against the glass. It's like, okay, this is the place. I get back to the hotel, and, you know, she's sick. And then, like, I'm looking in the middle of the night. I'm still looking on the internet. I'm like, this place is like a 15-building complex. There must be more to it than this. So in the middle of the night, I'm like, Stoya, I think I missed something. And she's like, yeah? And I'm like, yeah, like, let's go back out, and there may be more to it than this, further into the woods. So we go back out in the middle of the night, and we're using our, like, cell phones as flashlights, and we're looking around. So I see a little, like, you know, concrete cabana, like a little modern building, and I'm like, she's like, I think that's it. And I'm like, okay. So this is, like, part of the beach complex. And I'm like, she's like, okay, we'll come back later. I'm like, no, let's see more. She's like, I'm scared. You know, like the whole, it was very X-Files. So we're going through there, and we're going up the path. And we start seeing like more and more ruined buildings. And then like, and we're just like stepping on glass. And you look up and there's this huge canopy over this swimming pool. You can look up the swimming pool online. It's just this massive pool with this huge glass thing over it. And I'm like, here it is. And we sneak in, and then we see this like amazing lobby, like with these huge, you can't tell what they are now, but they're these like big circular shapes, look like an alien spaceship, but it was the bar in the middle, and then all these like booths around it, and then it's like a totally crazy place. Okay, we'll come back in the morning, hopefully before dawn, no cops, you know, we're hoping, you know, we could hear dogs barking. So we come back in the morning, get ready, and we shoot the scene. And we're having sex, and then she's like, I hear something. I hear something like footsteps. But it's, I'm like, well, it's coming from the direction that we came. So we like get really dressed and like move. We couldn't go back out the way we came, so, because that's where the footsteps are coming from. So we go deeper into the complex, And it's huge. Like, you can imagine, like, a whole hotel, like this hotel we're in. Every single room, everything is torn apart. You like, not one chair left, not one faucet left.
The refugees were complete.
Yeah, I mean, like, it had just been sitting there, and they were, you know, trying to live. So, like, just, like, it's hard to imagine, like, every single room trashed to this degree. Like, it's, like, way more than Silent Hill or anything like that. It was, like, every room, nothing left. So we're going in on this, like, all ruined carpet, and after about 20 minutes of just, like, trying to get away from the footsteps, I'm like, okay, we have to get out of here. Like, we can't just go deeper and deeper in. You know, she's like, all right. So we peek out, and it's a fucking deer.
Wow. Like a female deer, a doe? Or
yeah, a deer,
wow.
A female deer.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so you guys were all scared for nothing. Did you, like, laugh about it and have more sex afterwards?
I mean, yes.
In the place or later?
I mean, if I remember correctly, we had sex there again.
Nice. So that was for her website.
Yeah, because she was doing this series of having sex in different places, like Stoya Around the World. So she's going to different places.
Around the World in 80 Ways, I think it's called.
Like that. Yeah, like her idea is like
it's a good idea.
I mean, she wanted to do things on her own terms. You know, she's done it doing like regular scenes. She was like, I wanted to do things to be real and like the way, you know, just have it part of, you know, like her own thing. And so
like an adventure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was, you know, and
reality adventure.
We did a bunch of stuff like that. You know, we went to Athens, and you know, we shot one in the presidential suite of the Palace Hotel over there.
Oh, you did too then? Okay.
Suite. I mean, we did a bunch on that. I mean, that was the main one was the Haladogo because that was going to be the hard one. But the other ones were just like, you know, we went to places that were going to be easy to get to from there, like Greece is easy to get to, and Zagreb is easy to get to. But
did she? Don't mean to sidetrack here, but did she get discovered in Philadelphia?
I don't know exactly. I know she was on the East Coast.
Okay.
And I know she had bounced around different cities there, but I'm not sure like which one.
All right.
Was her.
All right. So right now you're based in LA and you're painting out there.
Yeah.
Or you do some painting every now and then.
Yeah.
Do you have a studio like what in the Hollywood area or down the beach? Where are you?
Downtown. I mean,
downtown. The warehouse district. The arts district.
The arts district. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Big place, small place.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of art. Like I've never had a separate studio because I like to wake up and get reminded that my painting looks bad.
That's what I figured. Yeah, you have a live workspace, right?
Yeah, but a lot of people like to have a separate place, but then when I talk to them, they're always like, "Oh, I need to get into the studio more," and I'm like, "I'm always in the studio," you know. And also like. It's good for shooting because it's a big open loft. So, you know, it's a big multi-use space, essentially, you know, if you want to take photos and, you know.
I do, thanks.
My ex.
Is that an invitation?
I mean.
It'd be awesome.
We don't turn down press, I suppose.
All right.
You know, like when people come over, like it's a good place to have a party. It's a good place, you know, when my ex was camming, you know, it was a good place to cam. You know, like it's just, you know, it's a big. And we're artists, so it's kind of...
I've shot there before. This one porn star, when she was married to this one guy who's a fashion designer guy, they had an upstairs. It was a really dingy place, but it was like really cool. I mean, it was like the old downtown warehouse district, and I guess upstairs there was lofts and stuff. Yeah. And you go up this rickety old, you know, staircase in a corridor that goes. It looks like it was built in the 1920s.
It's not half as rickety as New York, but it's the closest that LA gets. You know.
Okay, so you started in New York and Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And nice.
But yeah, I was doing paintings then. I got out of grad school and then started, you know, I was back in New York, and I guess I kind of moved from like girls who I knew in art school who were like pro doms and like, you know, nude models, then moved from there to like girls who were strippers, and then the strippers knew the porn girls, and so I started painting the porn girls, and then eventually, you know, I did a couple movies, and then you meet more porn people, and yeah.
You mean with your subjects for painting?
Yeah.
Awesome painting subjects, yeah.
Yeah, but also it's been interesting.
Working oil?
Well, the thing is, like, if you look at, I had my first show in 2002, and just the way that being naked on the internet was viewed then versus now, like how much it's changed.
So less stigma now?
I mean, yeah. But it's also there's less stigma. But just in terms of like the series, like at the beginning, it was it was hard to find people, and it was like, and they wanted to talk. We both wanted to talk a lot first about what it was like, you know, and it was kind of like a mystery. It was like a thing that was hidden, and there was less community and less resources, and it was just like the series of paintings, of portraits, and what they were about kind of changed because the world changed around them during that time, you know, like, and now.
What year was that?
2002 was my first show, so like.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's not weird to have a, you know, if you said you're doing a painting series of porn stars, you'd be like, well, get in line. Who isn't? You know, like the
so
only.
Funny.
I mean,
it's
the
true.
thing is, the first time I came to Suicide Girls, I was talking to people at Suicide Girls. You know, Sean was like, "There's a lot of people doing this, but you're good at it." You know, like he liked me, and he was he was like, "Yeah, if you want to paint some of the girls, cool." And I eventually got a Suicide Girl in the MoMA. So that was kind of a Suicide Girl painting in their collection, and so that was kind of a big deal for them. But it has been strange watching like something that like I was doing as a project for me turn into something that like, you know, everybody has fan art now. You know, like they have 300 pictures of themselves.
All right,
like,
fan,
now
the whole
I'm a Disney
fan art
princess.
thing.
Now I'm a frog. Now I'm a mermaid. You know, like it's normal. And so when you write to somebody you don't know and you're like, hey, I want to do a painting of you, they're like, you know, go ahead.
You know, you're right. The whole Stormy Daniels things would have been such a scandal 20 years ago.
Or
now it's not really a scandal.
I mean, it might. And part of it is that, and part of it is just that there's nothing about Donald Trump that's not a scandal.
Right, and it's like his wife was an ex-nude model.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like everything's gotten so mainstream, and porn is everywhere. I mean, the UK is having to make that AV law, you know, to age verification law, to make it impossible to access online content that is not behind a paywall. Without, from the way I understand it, the law reads they're going to make it so even like the samples, you have to like do 3-step verification. You have to send in an ID, you have to give them a credit card, which is tied to your name, and you have to, I don't know, swear on a holy Bible that you're over 18 or something. But it's like
England doesn't need more blue laws. I mean, it's already such a messed up place.
But they're doing that, and then that'll affect the big tube sites, and that'll carry on down to everybody else. So hopefully, maybe they're saying that the smaller websites will be able to make more money now because it'll, you know. But anyways, getting back to what we were saying about your subject matter, great, you know. So I'm not familiar with your movies. I haven't seen your paintings yet, but I'd like to. And maybe we could do like a profile on you and review a magazine artist profile,
Cool.
erotic art profile. I didn't mean to cut you off when you were talking about Stoya. Is there anything you'd like to add about your friend Stoya and what she's doing now with her art projects?
No,
When you're here,
she can speak for herself and
Absolutely.
answer specific
Of course.
questions.
But you're here at the Hard Rock Cafe, here at the Hard Rock Casino, doing a story for a magazine on art. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, art
Yeah,
and
well,
porn?
I mean, I write a column for an art magazine. It's that's like the big art magazine in LA. And hello, ma'am. And so I was talking to them about like doing something about AVNs, because I've already done AVN like as AVN. Like I wrote a book about working in porn, so I had a big thing
You did?
about AVN. Yeah. And so I'm thinking about like
What's it called?
We Did Porn.
Under your stage name or your real name?
I think it says Zak Smith and then in parentheses Zak Sabbath.
Okay, we'll look it up.
But it's like one of those books that a lot of girls who are just like first getting into the industry, they're like, oh, I liked your book. It was, you know. So that's nice because it's people who are actually in porn like it and get it, you know, like, and that was important to me because I haven't had a normal experience in porn, you know, like
How so?
Well, I mean, I was never a full-time dude, you know, like I never, you know, like I didn't come out of school and not know what to do with my life and go do porn. Like I didn't, like I was well-known painter making rent just fine when I did my first movie, and so
Wow.
I had an atypical experience. But you're representing other people, and so I didn't want to. Even things like this make me a little nervous because I don't want to act like I'm an expert. But on the other hand, I feel like, compared to a lot of people who have been in the industry like 10 years, I don't know shit. But at the same time, like I feel like I have a perspective of what it's like to not be in the industry and be able to explain to people in a way that people find helpful. Like a year or two ago when there was, are you still shooting?
Yes.
there was the whole condoms in porn law, and everybody in porn, basically 60 people or whatever, went up to OSHA in Oakland and was explaining how the condom law wasn't actually that helpful to us, and it wasn't really great for performers, and it wasn't really about the condoms. It was about like the way the law was written was really sloppy. But like, so it was performer after performer got up and talked about it. But I got up there and I was like, okay, listen, like my girlfriend at the time, like every pre-existing condition she has is tattooed on my arm. Like nobody is more, like she's chronically ill, you know? Nobody's more worried about safety on set than she is. Like she's somebody who like does less scenes and makes less money because of how she was worried about getting sick. And this law and the way that it's written doesn't help. You know, like the way the law was written, it was so sloppy that like if you're shooting in Hollywood and you're shooting a movie where anywhere in the movie it's implied that Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan have sex, like even if it's not explicit. If that happens and then like Meg Ryan puts a cigarette in Tom Hanks' mouth or feeds him some cake, then that's technically, there's sex in the movie, or simulated sex, and there's penetration of an orifice with an object. That means that Tom Hanks has to wear a dental dam and goggles and all that.
Yeah,
like,
I heard that they call that the mainstream movie exclusion clause or something.
Well, there's no clause, at least at the time when we went to it. There was nothing like that. Like, it was so sloppily written.
Okay.
And I went to fucking Yale. I read the law. I read the text. I read the fucking... You know, I read the legal, I read the documents that the other documents were based on.
You went to Yale to read the law?
No, I went to...
You attended Yale?
Yeah, as a grad student. And so, like, I got up there, and even though a lot of performers who are veterans, like, had said shit, I was like, I looked at the lawmakers and I explained it, like, here's the law that you wrote, here are the rules, here's, like, the situation that we're in. Like, it says producer. You know what a porn producer is? No one in this room knows what a porn producer is. A guy who says, I want a video of you eating a chicken and masturbating, I'll give you $75 for that. Technically, that guy's a porn producer. You know, like some random fan. A porn producer has to have your medical records for 50 years. So that means if somebody wants to hire you to do a one-off video that you send to them, only for them, a custom video, you have to give them your medical records complete, and they have to hold them for 50 years. Like, the law was just not written.
It's not realistic.
Yeah. And I was up there being like,
Was that intentional? Were they trying to be overly burdensome to kill the porn industry? Or were they just being dumb dicks?
It was a combination of both, because the AIDS organization, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, even within the HIV positive community, is not a well-respected organization. They're kind of people, they're opportunists, you know, like they've widely been kind of, you know, they're in it for the grant money, they're in it for the, you know, the people who run it to sort of get status as, you know, important nonprofit people, and they don't really seem to give a shit about the actual spread of AIDS. For example, the PrEP drug, which is like very effective at preventing AIDS, and you like pop it and like, you know, they want to kill PrEP because that's like a bold, headline grabbing stand that they can take. Like, it's not condoms, you shouldn't worry about it. It's like, why not do both? You know, like, we're all making porn. Why isn't PrEP a rule in porn? Like, we're all having sex without condoms. Like, we're all getting tested once a month. Well, why not, or every few weeks, but why not take PrEP? Because the AIDS Healthcare Foundation doesn't give a shit. And so they and their lawyers wrote the law. Part of it was to become burdensome on porn and to get it, and then they could grab headlines. Like, AIDS Healthcare Foundation has kicked porn out of California, and now it's only in Nevada. And part of it was because they weren't really paying that much attention. They didn't think that we would take it on. And so, on the one hand, yeah, I haven't done that many films compared to a lot of the people walking around this hotel. But on the other hand, I feel like because I've been spending so much time talking to the academic world, talking to fine art people, like just having a normaler life in some ways, like I can translate a little bit, you know, and that kind of comes up.
And how did you get pulled into this tawdry business? What was your entree?
Like the weirdest thing ever. I had done. Thomas Pynchon wrote a novel called Gravity's Rainbow, and I did a picture for every single page of that novel because it was my favorite book. So I drew a picture for every page of Gravity's Rainbow, and then a little bit after, because I was also doing these portraits of porn people, I was interviewing some porn people and talking about it. And then a year later, this guy I had never met, I just did a phone interview, he said, you know, it would mean a lot to me if I could use those pictures in a movie, because I love that book, and I want to make an autobiographical porn movie. This is like the early 2000s when there was a lot of sort of very arty porn before the big internet crash killed everything, you know. So, but the big companies like Larry Flint and Vivid and VCA were just throwing away out money on weird movies, you know, during the early 2002, 3, 4, 5. And so this guy was like, yeah, I would make an arty autobiographical porn, and I want to include those pictures. And I was like, sure. And I said, and it would mean a lot to me if I could fuck all the girls in the movie. And he was like, haha, well, I mean, send me pictures, you know, like I kind of need a punk for the thing because, you know, I don't want to use this other dude who's the only other guy in the industry who had that weird hair. So I sent him pictures. He was like, yeah, you're hired. And so I did that first movie called Barbed Wire Kiss. And then, you know, at that point, then some of the girls were like, oh, Zach is talent now. And so I got hired on some more stuff. But guys always fall into porn ass backwards. It's always some kind of joke. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it always starts with somebody being like, hey, what if I did that? And then somebody's like, sure, you know.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you've been so open with Reviewer Magazine. Thank you, Zach. And looking forward to seeing more of your work. When I'm in LA, I'd like to check out your paintings and stuff. And
if you want to see the originals, most of them are in New York in my gallery. So if you get to New York, then they're
in your gallery.
The gallery that represents me.
Okay.
I don't own it. They're my
One
main
day,
gallery.
maybe. Nice. Nice. Good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem.
And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
All right. Sweet.